Alright, we've got some more Cakewalk content for you today. We're going to look at the EQ, looking at the equalizer, how it works, and getting used to the interface here on Cakewalk. So let's get into it. Over here we've got our plugins. We're going to jump to EQ, and we're going to drag this over to our bass that we're working on here. So with the layout, you got your different bands over here corresponding that way. You can turn them on and off by doing this. You can change whether it's a peak, dip, meaning this shape here, shelf, high, low, low pass, high pass. I will almost always on my band 1 turn it to a high pass. That means it passes over all the highs and only cuts out the lows. It's also called a low cut is another way to say it. And right here we have our frequencies. We can click that drag and move it to shape the sound as we want. The Q is most obvious here on one of these, so we'll take number 2, boost the gain up. We'll move that over so you can see it better. And the Q adjusts that bell curve, the shape of the EQ, of what it's doing. How many frequencies is it affecting? The bigger the bell curve, obviously the more frequencies it's affecting. The shorter, the tighter the curve, the less frequencies it is affecting. So we'll move that, and you can see clearly. The higher the number, the tighter the Q, and the lower the number, the wider the Q. That's a really, really useful, helpful thing that you'll be using all the time once you get used to it. And then the gain is just turning it up or down. So with a equalizer, we have the ability to manipulate the frequencies. All sound is just simply frequencies. Everything that we hear ranges from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, 20 kilohertz, 20K. And everything that we hear is just frequencies. So with this, we're able to get in to listen to the overall sound of the instrument or the track we're working on, and then use the EQ to be able to manipulate and turn up or down those different frequencies to make it sound nice and as we want it, to shape it the way we want it to be. So let's listen to it and get it working. So here's a bass guitar. Now obviously with a bass guitar we don't want to do a high pass to cut out all the lows, because that's what a bass guitar is, right? We want that to breathe really well, so we'll just turn it off. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to high pass to get the sub bass, which is like 50 hertz and below. Sometimes you just want to tame that a little bit. It can just be too wild and it can blow up your mix and make it really muddy. You don't want that. So it sounds really muddy to me. Doesn't have a lot of clarity to it. Just has this little low end that we want to clean up that a little bit and find out where the problem frequencies are. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these bands, we're going to narrow that Q as we've already done, we're going to shoot it up in volume and start to pan left and right to see what do these numbers actually sound like, but then at the same time find that doesn't sound nice, so we can take that out. Our first pass of EQ is almost always going to be deductive, cutting out frequencies. It's a lot easier to hear the whole and think that doesn't sound nice, find that, and then pull it out. It's a lot easier to do that than to do additive, which is you're hearing what's not there and then you need to add it. That's a lot more difficult, takes a lot more skill, and is a lot easier to mess up as well and make it sound terrible. So let's go fishing. So you can start to hear how the different frequencies by number actually corresponds to a sound. That kind of sounds a little honky. There was one back here. That sounds a bit hollow. So we'll take that down. But let's be extreme with it because we're learning how to EQ, right? So in learning EQ, the best thing you can do is to realize that you are a professional. And the reason I say that is because a professional hears something, they think of a number immediately, they go to that number and they adjust it. That's what you need to start doing. You just need to start being a professional. Listen to what you're hearing. Hear the frequencies that don't sound nice. Give it a number. go to that number, adjust it, and see, did that do what I wanted? If it didn't, then just think, was that adjustment lower or higher than what I wanted to adjust? If it was lower, then just move it higher, choose another number. You need to get used to how a sound is associated with a number, so that when you hear that sound, you can quickly say that's 350 hertz, or that's 200 hertz, or that's a 2K ring. Doesn't sound nice, right? You can get used to that so that you can very quickly start correcting these things without just spending a lot of time fishing. So let's go to an extreme to hear what it does. Hear that boosting. I think that cleans it slightly, so we'll do that. Then we'll try to find another one. We're going to boost that Q up on 3. We got another okay. Now in this case, there is a big bit missing. It's all those highs, all the clarity of the bass guitar. You're just hearing the roundness of it, the woolliness of it. We want a little bit more attack on the strings. We want a little bit more of that clarity. It's a slightly kind of it's like a funk kind of rock tune, right? And so we want a little bit of that bite to come out of that bass guitar. So that one, I don't want it to be a shelf. I'm going to turn it here to a dip peak. And I'm going to change that Q on 5, make it a bit more aggressive. That sounds a bit better already. So there you go. That's a bit of EQ for you. I hope that helps. There's a whole world of EQing you can dive into. You can get into the different frequencies, key frequencies of different instruments, what's common to cut out and to boost on a kick drum, on a snare, on acoustic guitar, on everything. We can get into that, but this video is just about getting you started. And the best thing you can do is just go for it. Just get in there, start mixing, start EQing, start listening to the audio critically to hear what frequencies need adjusting, and then adjust it. And then review that adjustment and do it again, and start learning how these frequencies have numbers and how you can make an instrument sound good. There's more videos coming soon, so stick around.